Hi, friends, hello, the world. Welcome to this podcast, Tools for Transitioning Humanitarians. And one of the tools that I wanted to introduce to you that I think many of us have difficulty applying or using it or even considering as an option. And that tool is acceptance, the ability to accept things as they are that we all have, but I think many of us are afraid to use it, don't want to use it, or feel like if I use it, then I won't be changing it, or we equal acceptance to giving up, or acceptance to complacent, or like understanding, or like being in the same boat with the other person, right? So that we have a lot of like maybe negative association with it or difficulty with this tool. And I wanted to give you some ways for you to think about what it is, why it's useful, how do you know if you have accepted it, and what to do basically about it, right? So this is the topic that I want to introduce to you. And I think I may have talked about it in different other settings, but I thought I would like present it to you all in one go so that you have that tool available to you to use it anytime you want to. So I will be also giving you some examples of my clients and my own experience for you to visualize it as well. So let's start with the question of what it is that is acceptance, right? What is the acceptance that I'm talking about? Acceptance is seeing things the way they are without judging it, without trying to change it, without wishing it was different than it actually is. For instance, let's say that some of the behaviors of the loved ones that you have, and you keep wanting to change, you keep wanting or wishing the other person to do it, you keep wanting that, why it's like this, instead of looking at this is how it is. Like, for instance, let's say that your loved one smokes, and instead of like keep wishing, I wish he didn't, or she didn't, or I wish this, I wish that, instead, this is him or her smoking, and these are the thoughts that I have about this behavior, right? The same goes for yourself. If you have difficulty accepting certain things about yourself, and for instance, one of my clients was telling me yesterday that I'm at this certain age and I didn't have all the things that I wanted to have by now, and then keep resisting, keep fighting herself for this without even like consciously realizing it, or her certain characteristic that is innate to her, but keep refusing it, keep rejecting it, instead of saying, this is how I am. These are my thoughts about that characteristic. This is accepted. Like without judging it, without trying to make it something else, but rather saying, these are the things that are truths about me that I think are truths about me. And here are my judgments and thoughts about it. This is like looking at it and looking at what's coming up, what is the truth currently, and being in that truth, right? So that's like another way of looking at it is um, acceptance is when the absence of resistance, absence of fighting, absence of rejection. And uh, whenever we have that acceptance, then we have more space and decide what to do with it, whether to change it or not to change it. So let's talk about why it's useful to have this acceptance, or to learn, or to explore our ability to accept things, and why it's useful, right? So one of the first things is that acceptance allows us to look at things as they are without trying to make it different. So, for instance, let's imagine that your child has broken a leg, right? Or hurt some way. And then the child comes to you and she starts crying and saying, "This is what happened. I was playing, and this is what happened." Now we have usually one of two ways to react, right? So either we start saying things like, well, how could you do this? I told you not to do it, da, 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 da. That would be like resisting the reality, getting mad at the reality. Or we know what to do next by saying, okay, this is what happened. Yes, I could be sitting mad and telling how this shouldn't have happened, but I need to act and I need to do something. So I go and do the next things that I need to do to help the child. So that's why the reason why the acceptance is so useful is instead of keep resisting the reality, refusing the reality, or not accepting the reality, but just saying, this is what happened. These are the things that happen. These are the ways I can do something about it, or I choose not to do anything about it because I can't change anything, for instance, right? Another reason why it's so useful is because it allows us also to remove a lot of the not only the judgment but drama around it, right? So instead of keep reinforcing that drama, keep reinforcing that turmoil around this topic, but rather clears up a lot of those things and look at it. This is what's happening. This is the fact, or these are the facts of what's happening. These are my thoughts about it. Yes, I'm not proud of them, or yes, I wish I didn't have these thoughts, but these are the thoughts I'm having. And now what am I going to do about it? Instead of just boiling or staying in our own drama, in our own judgments, in our own I wish things were different mindset, and that will take us away from actually achieving the solution we want or going for something else we want. So these are the reasons. Let me check my notes because I was looking at. Yes, and it also, as I said, removes unnecessary suffering because the drama keeps a lot of the suffering going on and removes a lot of that suffering, and also recognizes our humanness, recognizes our reactions, and recognizes that this is how, I don't know, society has taught me to react this way, and I don't want to do that anymore, for instance, right? So one of the examples I have for that is that at some point in my life, I had this um, like refusal of where I come from and who I am. I didn't want to tell people who I am and where I come from. I had this shame of, oh, I'm not educated enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not intelligent enough. And if I was from somewhere else, from another country, then I would be magically having all my success in life and all the things. And in those years, I think also society had this um, perception of certain people from certain groups or certain elite groups or certain cities. They were considered intelligent and a priori like great people, and I didn't have that, and therefore I kept refusing and rejecting who I was and where I come from, right? And therefore, once I realized that to recognize who I am and accepting it, not only accepting, but actually embracing who I am, then things have so shifted for me in terms of, okay, I don't want to be refusing and rejecting, self rejecting innate things about me, that facts about me, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend time on it. And I actually um, see and recognize the uniqueness about them instead of just keeping and going against it and keep fighting oneself, right? So that's why acceptance is so useful for that purpose as well, is to recognize the innateness, recognize uniqueness, recognize the characteristics about ourselves from nature, from the upbringing, from the background that we all have very specific to who we are, and recognizing them and standing by them instead of keep fighting them. Now, let's talk about how do you know when you have accepted it? And I think that's the oh, sorry, maybe before we go to the how, let's talk about why it's so difficult for people to accept it, right? Why people have difficulty accepting it. And I have now at least two clients who are having difficulty accepting their reality of what that is. So one of the clients I have is that he had decided not to go to the field and to stay where he is currently in the headquarters, and he's having difficulty accepting his decision, and he keep labeling it as I made a mistake, even though at the time he had good reasons for in his own mind, right? Good reasons for not going to the field, but now he keeps labeling it as I made a mistake, I shouldn't have done it, and then keep punishing himself. So you can see that as soon as he keeps punishing himself and not accepting his own decision of this is what I did and this is the reason why I did it, then it would always be like suffering and keep being in this mindset of I don't know what to do, and at the same time being afraid of making other decisions because of the this one being labeled as I made the mistake, right? So that's why we're working with him on how to accept his decision, own his decision, and accept his current truths of this is the decision I made. These are the opinions I have afterwards about how I made the mistake. This is what's happening for me. Now, what am I going to do with it? These are the truths about me, about my decision. Now, what am I going to do with it? And if we don't bring the acceptance, we don't really have the power over what to do next because we keep going back to resisting, we keep going back to um, like rejecting our own decision and we keep just disowning everything, right? So that's why acceptance is key here. So accepting that these are my thoughts about my decision, these are the feelings I'm having about my decision. Now, what am I going to do? That would be the next step to go. So that is one of the like first thing why it's difficult is because we just feel like we can't accept it, we can't really do anything about it, or it's too difficult to accept. We believe, or many of us believe that if we accept, that means we gave up. So we equal acceptance to giving up. Or we equal acceptance to being on board with someone's opinion, right? So just because we're accepting their opinion, that means that we agree with them, which doesn't necessarily have to be the case, but this is what we equal it. Or if I accept it, then I won't be doing anything about it. But it's actually the opposite is true because as long as we are in this resistance mode, as long as we are in this self-rejection mode, then it's difficult to then decide what we're going to do about it because we're just keep bumping against the reality or keep bumping against our own truths of what's happening. And we just like, we feel like the way that I have the image is like we create these two persons within us who keep fighting with each other without listening to each other, right? Without listening to each other, what's going on. So acceptance allows us, okay, let's sit at the table and have a conversation with ourselves, right? So imagine you have this within you, the two voices, one is wanting this and the other wanting this, and then just having this conversation, calming down, having this conversation of this is what my voice is telling me. This is also what the other voice is telling me. What am I going to do with both of them, or which one I'm going to go for on purpose, and which one I'm going to let it go. So, in the other reason, let me check my yes. And the other reason why we believe that it's difficult to accept is that we will not be learning our lessons, and we should learn our lessons, and we should. Some people even have this idea of punishing ourselves, and if we accept easily, then we won't be able to punish ourselves, and therefore we won't be learning our lessons, right? But I would like for you to question that premise as well: is do we really learn our lessons better by mm, punishing ourselves, or we can learn our lessons without punishing? I would argue that we can do that without punishing, and punishing is not necessary at all. But I think many of us believe that if we accept it, then we can't just punish, right? If we accept it, then we can't really change anything about it. But again, let's question that premise as well as can you really not change anything if you accepted it? Or it actually becomes so much easier to change because you are now looking at all of your truths of what's happening within you and then deciding what to do with it instead of just keep refusing to look at them, keep like no, I don't want to see it, because if I see it, if I recognize this truth, then I would have to do something about it. Then I don't want to do it. You see what I'm saying? So that's why these are the reasons why I think accepting it is so difficult. And therefore, we will talk about how to remove those difficulties. But before, I want to come back to when you feel you have this acceptance. How do you know that you have accepted it? And here are the experiences that I have seen from my own experience and from my clients. Is one of the main ways you will feel is that you will not be having this fight within you. You will not be having this conflict within you, but rather calm, grounded energy of this is what it is. These are the things that how they are, and these are the ways that I'm going to do and change it or to solve it or leave it as it is, right? This is how it feels like. Another way that you can feel it is that when you don't focus on this anymore, or it doesn't trigger anything within you, if some conversations going around this topic, you are not going to be triggered about it, or you're not going to be defensive about it. You just accept things the way they are, or you don't even make it a big deal, or you don't even notice it being a big deal. Another way that you can know that this is when you have accepted it is when you start exploring how to embrace certain characteristics that you have been refusing for some time. Like in the case of my client who is an introvert, and she kept refusing herself being an introvert, believing that extroverts have more success in life or better communication skills and all the other things. But then as soon as she started accepting herself of being an introvert by nature and exploring her own ways of communicating in that introvert way, communicating or solving problems using her introvert innate characteristics and embracing them, and exploring other ways of how it's useful actually for her, how it's beneficial for her. As soon as she started exploring, things become so much easier and better, feeling more confident, standing by that truth, standing by owning that characteristic, right? It opens up so many more opportunities for you to now explore that instead of just keeps refusing yourself. This is how you feel when you have accepted it. And the other way that I would love for you to reach the next level of self-acceptance is when you really feel that love for yourself, right? You really feel that compassion, the love for yourself, so much so that you always approach yourself with understanding of why you did it and how you did it, even if maybe some of the things you're not proud of or some of the things that you wish you didn't do, but then you're accepting and also lovingly being there for yourself, backing yourself in that moment instead of immediately going to self-punishment or beating up yourself or whatever other things you might have otherwise done, right? So this is how you will know. Now, let's talk about what to do and how to get yourself to that acceptance place. Is, as I said, one of the first things you can always do is look at, like, take one specific episode from your life, be it about age, be it about money, be it about family, whatever the topic that is, and you know that you have a lot of resistance there, you have a lot of like frustration there, disappointment there. Look at all of them with the eye of this is the topic. These are the thinking or thoughts and feelings I have around it. This is my truth, right? And what am I going to do about it? This is how things are, and what am I going to do about it? This is where you allow yourself to have the acceptance to look at all the things without judgment, without wishing it was different, but just looking at it. This is how it is. These are my thoughts, feelings about it, and what am I going to do about it, right? So that is one of the ways you can do it. Another way is you can bridge yourself, meaning that you can have yourself bridge from one um, non-acceptance to the acceptance. For instance, if you are someone who's having difficulty with your age or with your weight or with whatever that is currently the way it is, then instead of I hate this, I hate my age, or I hate my body, or I wish this was different, instead of doing that, you can just look at it. This is the facts of it. These are my thoughts about it. Like, for instance, I hate my body, right? And how do I want to shift to the next best thing that is available to me? And that's like a bridging thoughts that we talk about in the coaching world, where you bridge yourself to the other side. So acceptance is the bridge, imagine, and on the acceptance stage, what is available to you, right? So one of my clients I was talking to, she was telling me that on the bridge, there is the self-compassion is available to her, there is respect available to her, that she recognizes the wisdom she has with the age, or she recognizes that all the things she has achieved, she's compassionate with all the ways why she's believing this, right? So these are acceptable, like available to her, and then keep going on that bridge and keep bringing the next available thought for you, the next available thought, until you get to the point where you're like, you have no problem issues with it, or you are on the side of deciding what to do about it. So you can definitely explore those options. Another option that I would like for you to think about is owning it. And I think that's also something that's not easy for many of us. But let's say that it, like in the case of my client who's having difficulty owning his own decision, right? So how explore ways how I can own that this is what I did, right? So I made the decision because of these reasons, and owning. And once you own it, this is what I did. This is the reason why I did it. Now I'm labeling it as a mistake, and I recognize that as well. The next step is, what am I going to do about it? Right? So owning that this is what my brain is telling me. These are the stories my brain is telling me. Now, if I keep going on this road of I made this mistake, how could I, then this is where I end up. And do I really want that? If I don't want to be there, then which other road I will be taking? Right. So that's why owning it helps us. Okay, this is what I did. This is why I did it. Yes, maybe I'm not happy with the reason why I did it, but I did it. That's my like ownership over it. And now what am I going to do with it? The road I've been taking so far is leading me to this, where I feel crappy, drained, and exhausted about myself. And do I really want to go that way? And if I don't want to go that way, which other road is available to me? Let me explore that road. The road of self punishment is available to me, but do I really want to take it? If I don't want to take it, then which other road I can take it? Right? So that's why I think owning is a powerful place to be, or taking responsibility, whichever the way you think about it, and saying, this is what I did. These are the thoughts I'm having. Yes, maybe they're subconscious thoughts or unconscious, but these are my thoughts I'm having. These are the ways that I'm thinking. Now, do I keep wanting to think this way? Because if I keep thinking this way, these are the feelings I keep generating. And do I really want to have that? And if I don't want to have that, then what is available to me? What other roads available to me? And how do I want to focus on that instead of keep focusing on being in resistance, being in denial, or being in this self-refusal? So, my dears, I hope that you will try either of these three solutions that I have offered to you and explore for yourself how that acceptance feels like in your body. Like, feel that acceptance, how that feels like, and how can you generate more of that so that you can focus either on the solutions of that problem, or drop it all together, or actually exploring more of how you want to own it and embrace it and explore and develop it more, rather than keep self-refusing yourself. So, my dears, if you want to work on this or any topics that I cover, I would love to coach you. Come coach with me, and we will get you to that acceptance, to the solutions, or to the even embracing part of what is amazing, unique about that future that you have, and how can you grow that instead of keep using it against yourself. Have an amazing week, and I will talk to you very soon. Thank you. Bye.